It was astonishing in 1958 for anybody to write a major Broadway musical in which all the characters were Asian American and taken seriously. It's fascinating to hear from members of that community and just how astonishing it was.
Before, when you were an Asian, you had to come from China, right? It had to be, you got off the boat and you had to speak in a certain way. Now an Asian can be a member of a gang. You don't even have to speak with an accent.
Asian characters portrayed in movies or television, they tended to be either inhumanly bad, like the sort of Fu Manchu model, or inhumanly good, like the Charlie Chan model. But none of these seemed like people that you could relate to or that had any relationship to anyone that I knew. They didn't seem like full human beings, and that was what was different about Flower Drum Song.
For me, it was the first time it was a mainstream Hollywood film with an all-Asian cast. The Asian community was very excited about that. And I was just starting out in the business myself, and Hollywood had been exposed to Asian, quote, theme films, but a lot of them were played by non-Asians even. And so we were getting into the time where there were Asians playing Asian roles.
When they set about casting Flower Drum Song, there was not the pool of talented Asian American actors that there is now and is expanding and should be ever expanding.
That was a community that was not all that well represented on Broadway in the 50s. And so actually they got some extraordinary performers through auditions hither and yon. They scoured every place they could possibly think of, and they came up with an amazing group of people. Again, Rodgers and Hammerstein were the kind of names that they didn't need to have name performers.
Dick Rodgers and Hammerstein told Gene Kelly, go ahead and find Asian players. Gene Kelly asked me where to find Asian, because in those days I didn't know anyone. But I do know in San Francisco there's a nightclub called Forbidden City. There's a honky-tonk place, a striptease place. They're Asians. So we went there and saw this show. Gene Kelly liked Jack, the master of ceremony.
Maestro, please.
Gene Kelly said, do you want to go to Broadway? Jack said, who doesn't? He said, I'm going to resign my job right now and go with you. Gene Kelly said, on one condition, you have to change your name to Chinese. His name was Japanese. Jack Suzuki said, you got it. Right now, I'm Jack Su. So when people ask me, are you proud of Broadway? I said, I'm proud for one thing. I changed the Japanese comedian into a Chinese star. That's what I'm proud of.
Jack Su became quite a star. He began in the play playing the role of Frankie Wing, who was the fellow in the nightclub who sings Gliding Through My Memory. Eventually, in the film, he became Sammy Fong, and then he went on to have great success in television. But there are many great Asian performers in that film.
They were able to find some amazing people. I mean, Miyoshi Umeki, who was an extraordinary Japanese American performer, she has a very kind of delicate sense about her, very, lent an extraordinary authenticity.
You watch in the film the way she delivers this line about loving Quaker Oats, and your heart breaks.
Oh, yes, I like it. Especially I like Quaker Oats.
James Shigeta was someone that women were attracted to of all different races. The all-Japanese American boy. Having Shigeta in Flower Drum Song and having him be Ta and be, a sexy and compelling romantic lead was really important to Asian Americans and, particularly Asian American males, because it kind of gives you a role model that if you're going to think of yourself as masculine and think you can get girls and stuff, that, you can do that with this face. And Nancy Kwan is a vital pioneer, being not only beautiful and an amazing actress and dancer, but it means something to the broader society that Asian Americans can't be confined to a particular stereotype, that they can be as elegant as Nancy Kwan.
I was very aware that there were not many Asian roles being written, and so that's another reason when Flower Drum Song came along, that it gave me an opportunity to dance and to sing and to act in a big studio Hollywood film. And I mean, it's still, even to today, I don't think that has changed. I think there's still not enough good roles for Asian actors. I mean, I think the minorities have come up since, like the Hispanics, for example. Of course, the African Americans have expanded, you know, and I hope to see the Asians do it too. There's much more awareness today, but I still think for Asian actors, we're not there yet.
I am happy to be both Chinese and American.
You are like the Chinese dish the Americans invented. What do they call it? Chop suey. That is it. Everything is in it, all mixed up.
It cannot be overestimated enough how important Flower Drum Song was in the telling of a story that was focused around Asian Americans in a very straightforward, honorable, honest way.
One of the things that Flower Drum Song emphasizes is really the positive aspects of being an American, that this group, though they may seem foreign, can be just as American as anyone else. You had an actual romance between an Asian man and an Asian woman. You had a strong Asian male romantic lead, and you had these Asian Americans sort of singing and dancing, and many of them speaking without accents and being purely American. And that, I think, was really revolutionary for the late 50s and even the 60s when I saw it.
But I think as the perception of the Chinese American community in America started to change, while that community still acknowledged the importance of Flower Drum Song, they found some of the depiction of the characters a little too stereotypic of the 1950s era. There was something about Flower Drum Song that seemed to that community, which was emerging, a little bit old-fashioned.
Years go by and cultural mores change and cultural standards change. And I think Flower Drum Song, by the time I got to college, was looked at as an example of what we were reacting against. In terms of Asian Americans, we were trying to assert that we could define our own cultural identities, and therefore the notion of these stories being appropriated, as it were, by white writers and artists seemed inauthentic to us.
Flower Drum Song gets caught in this net of what we call cultural appropriation. Is it right to write about something that's not your race? I think Flower Drum Song has something in it to offend everyone, which means to me it has something to offer everyone. What I find remarkable about it is that it does represent so many aspects of American culture. I think there's probably always a danger when you pick a culture and you exoticize it, you show their costumes and their customs and their food and their music, all of which is in Flower Drum Song. When you're not really a part of it, that gets a little sticky.
At first, the Asian community seemed to embrace it, and then they felt it was a little old-fashioned, wasn't telling all of the truth. It wasn't the truth changed, it was that their lives changed. And I think this happens in all of the great works of art. Our political agenda is constantly changing. Rodgers and Hammerstein survive and continue to survive in stories like Flower Drum Song because rather than try to paint the whole political picture, they just zero in on a specific relationship.
I think the greatest achievement of Flower Drum Song is a celebration of that community. Maybe not of that culture. Maybe the culture is too big to be contained in that movie. But it certainly makes you understand, and you're intrigued by, and you're moved by, and you're fascinated by the Chinatown community in San Francisco, which is like none other.
Flower Drum Song opened doors for Asian American performers and also for the telling of Asian American stories. You know, there is a whole generation of Asian American performers who have some connection to Flower Drum Song, who were able to be in the business, who were able to have a Broadway credit, who were able to have a national tour credit, and then there's another generation, my generation, that were influenced to think that this type of career might be possible for us because of Flower Drum Song.